Okay, so today we're going to start chapter 5. Put our name and date at the top here. We're going to start with some geometry. So we're moving into, this one's specifically talking about lines, and then we'll get to other shapes. So we're going to try and figure out today that the relationship between angles that are formed between two parallel lines cut by a transversal. So in this case, this would be our parallel line. And the transversal is what cuts them. This one's also called a transversal, but these happen to be not parallel lines. But we're going to focus on the parallel lines. So we have some vocab, so you can take out your vocab sheets. When two lines intersect in a plane and form right angles, they are called perpendicular lines. Two lines are called parallel lines when they are in the same plane but do not intersect. So if we take some time here to define our own words, parallel lines, so the symbol for parallel lines is like two L's, perpendicular lines like an upside down T. So to define it in my own words, I'd say lines that never touch. You can describe it another way. Perpendicular, they make a T. Draw it, parallel lines. So I'll just draw two lines like that. And a lot of times you might see two arrows in the middle to show you that they're parallel. Perpendicular, you have a line like this, and another line cuts it right here, and it makes a 90-degree angle. Define a railroad example. So somewhere I might see parallel lines would be railroad tracks. Perpendicular lines at a stop sign. When two roads intersect at a stop sign. Okay, so lots of vocab words here. Okay, a line that intersects two or more lines is called a transversal. And 8 angles are formed. They showed those. So interior angles lie inside the lines. So examples, they've got all of these vocab words. Interior, they show they're on the inside of the lines. So 3, 4, 5, and 6, in between the two parallel. Exterior on the outside of the parallel then. It might be helpful to, on your vocab sheet, draw this, and that might be helpful on each vocab word. Alternate interior angles, if you dissect that word, it's interior angles that are on opposite or alternate sides of a transversal. So on the inside, looking on the inside, what's alternate or opposite of 3 would be 5, 4 would be 6. That's what I said here. Alternate exterior, the same thing, but on the alternating outside. So 2 and 8, 1 and 7. And that's what they say there. Corresponding are those angles that are in the same position on the two lines in relation to the transversal. So, for example, if one is on top of this parallel line, then it corresponds to the one in this position on top of this parallel line. So 1 and 5, 4 and 8, 2 and 6, 3 and 7. Now, what's unique about all of these 3 are that the measures or their degrees are equal. So if you know 1, you know 5 because they're corresponding. You also, last year, 1 and 3 are vertical, so those would also be equal. So some kind of neat stuff. We're going to explore that here in a little bit. So if you need to pause, pause because there's a lot of vocab there. So on slide 4, it just said angles. Read the n angle 1 as the measure of angle 1. That's how it's read out loud in math. Parallel and perpendicular lines. Read m, that sign n, as m parallel to n. Read p parallel to q as p is parallel to line q. So they're just telling you how to read those things. Special notation is used to indicate perpendicular and parallel lines. I kind of talked about this a little bit. A red right angle symbol indicates that the lines M and N are perpendicular, so sometimes it won't show up red because we don't have copy printer color. Just having that box in the corner. Or arrowheads on the line indicate that they are parallel. I drew 2 on slide 2. I was getting a little confused. But that's when you have more than one set of parallel lines, but that's okay. Okay, moving on to slide 5. Classify each of a pair of angles in the figure as alternate interior, alternate exterior, and corresponding. Now remember, all 3 of those means that all the angles are the same. So 1 and 7, they're on opposite sides of the line, and they're on the exterior. So those would be alternate exterior angles. 2 and 6. 2 is on the top of the parallel line, so is 6. Those would be corresponding angles. 1 and 5. Same side, same position on top of the parallel line, again corresponding. 2 and 8. We have 2 is on the right side, 8 is on the left side, so opposite, they're on the exterior. So alternate exterior angles. An example of alternate interior would be 4 and 6, or 3 and 5, just so you see all three. Okay, slide 6. Classify the relationship between angle 4 and angle 6. Angle 4 and angle 6. So they're on the inside, on alternate sides of the lane, so alternate interior this time. And don't be confused, our parallel lines are the same distance. Here our parallel lines are switching position. Use a figure at the right to name a pair of the following. Interior angles. So a pair of interior angles, or this is not a pair, this is what is an interior angle. Angle 2. Exterior, give me an exterior angle. I'll go with angle 1. Now these ones are pairs, alternate interior, so 2 and 7. Or the other one would be angle 6 and angle 3. Those are equal. Alternate exterior, angle 5 and angle 4, because they're alternate on the outside. 1 and 8 then would go together. Corresponding. Lots of these. I'm only going to name 2, but 1 corresponds to 3. And 5 corresponds to 7. Making sure we have our angle signs in all of these. Another pair would be 6 and 8, 2 and 4. Vertical angles, something from last year. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs here. One vertical pair would be angle 1 equals angle 6. The other pair would be angle 5 equals angle 2. The other 2 pairs, angle 3 equals angle 8, and angle 7 equals angle 4. Adjacent angles are angles that are next to each other on the same line. So, for instance, angle 1 equals angle 2. Or 5 equals 1, 5 and 6. Oh, these are not equal, I'm sorry. Angle 1, comma, angle 2. Or angle 1 and angle 5. These are not equal, so that's just a list. Supplementary would be 2 angles that add to 180 degrees. A line is 180 degrees, so these adjacent angles happen to be supplementary angles as well. So I'm just going to just draw an arrow. They're the same thing, but an additional pair would be angle 3 and angle 7. Those two add to the line. 4 and 8, 7 and 8. Lots of different adjacent pairs, which are also supplementary. So now in class, we're going to make a foldable and do an angle activity as your homework. And then we'll pick up again with day 2. So if you're watching this, you're going to want to make a foldable. You can do that at school or at home. But in your angle booklet, you're going to take 4 pieces of paper. We've done this before. You take 4 pieces of paper and you fold it so that you have little flaps. I used 2 different colors. Then on the top one, you're going to call it your angle booklet. I wrote my name on here. And then I would maybe pause or take a picture of this. You're just going to draw and put a definition for these different angles. So complementary, they add up to 90. Supplementary. So I cut that one in half. Those are from last year. Adjacent angles, I wrote the definition there. And vertical angles, I wrote the definition there. These are in the back of your book. And these are the ones we talked about today. Interior angles, exterior angles, alternate interior angles, alternate exterior angles, and corresponding angles, noting that I used all sorts of different colors to show all of the possibilities. So when you get back to school, you can work on that. Have a great day.